This story is pretty unbelievable. A Wisconsin hospital is blocking their employees from quitting and going to a competitor. Stick around and I'll tell you more. Hey everybody, it's Brian from A Life After Layoff, and today I want to share with you a story that I came across on my newsfeed that's developing as we speak, and it's absolutely bizarre, and I've never really quite heard anything like this before. So I'm going to break down the story and give you my thoughts on what I think is happening and why it's so bizarre and unusual. But before we get too far into it, if you're interested in more videos just like this one directly from a corporate recruiter, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I was on my newsfeed yesterday and I came across a pretty crazy headline that said that workers in Wisconsin hospitals sought new jobs with higher pay, then the hospital sued to prevent them from leaving. So I'll leave a link for the article in the description, but let's jump into it and see exactly what is going on in Wisconsin at this hospital chain. So it's saying that a Wisconsin court has granted a hospital's request to block 7 healthcare workers from leaving their old job, to start new jobs at a competitor. So I'm assuming it's similar type of positions, and I'm not sure if it breaks down what exactly they are. I'm assuming potentially nurses or technicians. So Theta Care was a hospital that these people were working at, and apparently they are going over to this competitor, Ascension, Northeast Wisconsin, and I'm assuming for similar types of positions. And basically they're asking the court to grant a temporary restraining order to prevent these employees from actually doing that, starting the new job. Shockingly, this judge from the circuit court actually granted Theta Care a temporary restraining order on the 20th of January. And apparently the attorneys from both hospitals are trying to figure out some sort of a solution, some sort of a resolution to this issue. So apparently this granted order states that Ascension must give back Theta Care a radiology technician and a registered nurse out of apparently the 7 that were resigning. So basically they have to give back 2 of the people who are moving over to this new company, or they have to cease the hiring of all 7 workers until Theta Care has hired replacements. Theta Care's reasoning in the complaint is that they say that Ascension has poached the hospital's workers in the region as the region struggles amid the rise in COVID-19 cases. There's a lot to unpack here, so I'm just going to go through this first, and then we'll go back and hit on some of these cases, some of the bullet points here. But Theta Care put I guess they put some of their non-urgent elective surgeries on hold last week due to the number of COVID patients and high absenteeism rate for members on a team due to illness. So Ascension released a statement saying that the Theta Care employees actually applied to their open job postings without prior recruitment, so they weren't reached out to them directly. The Theta Care employees were so fed up with their jobs that they actually went out and searched out opportunities at a competitor and happened to find some. Given that the labor market is what it is, and in particular in healthcare, that's absolutely no surprise to me that they would be able to be re-employed so very quickly, much to the dismay of apparently the hiring teams at Theta Care. Ascension Wisconsin's understanding that Theta Care had an opportunity but declined to make a competitive counter offer to retain its former employees. So I have a whole video on counteroffers, and you know how I feel about those. So good on these employees for not even, I don't even know if they would entertain a counter, but apparently Theta Care didn't feel the need to make a competitive counteroffer. They would rather just sue to get these people back to work with them. So given the unfortunate decision by Theta Care to file a lawsuit to enjoin competitive labor practices, we will not be commenting further through this matter since it's in litigation. So that's, of course, attorney speak, and wouldn't expect anything different. So Timothy Breister, one of the Theta Care employees who left, I guess received this other job, submitted a letter to the judge saying that he and his coworkers applied for Ascension because they believed that it would provide better work-life balance. I'm sure there's other reasons as well, but essentially he's stating that it was not a good situation. The first thing that comes to mind for me is that, and I actually went and had to check to ensure that Wisconsin is an at-will employer. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't work in healthcare and I never have, but to the best of my knowledge, it is not a protected group that would be exempt from at-will employment. So I confirm that Wisconsin is indeed an at-will employment state. Now, if you're not sure what at-will employment state is, most states in the country are, but basically what it says is that an employee or an employer can terminate or change the conditions of employment, your pay, or anything that they want to do, basically an adverse employment decision, without any consequence and without any reason or warning, unless, of course, you're dealing with WARN, which is an act dealing with shutting down plants, and they have to give this certain number of people are affected by a big layoff. They have to file and give the employees advance notice and that kind of thing. But essentially, an employer, through the at-will employment, can terminate you, can demote you, can change your rate of pay, can basically do whatever they want without any warning and without any notice, whenever they want, how they want. It's basically set up. In my opinion, the at-will employment agreement favors the employer because essentially they can terminate you at any time. On the flip side, it also says that the employee can quit their job at any time and then also go without any warning, without any reason, and there's no legal repercussions that they should have to worry about. And as you see right here on this note, it says an employee can quit their job without providing notice or explanation and without fear of legal action against them. So it got me thinking to myself, how is it possible that Wisconsin, or in particular this healthcare chain, can file a suit against an employee in an at-will state where they have the legal right to be able to quit at any time that they want? And reading through this article, I was thinking, is maybe there's some sort of, because of the whole COVID thing, that maybe there's some sort of weird exemption, but I didn't see that in this article. But the fact that this hospital chain can essentially circumvent the at-will employment agreement and go and file this temporary restraining order that a judge actually allowed or actually awarded is a real head scratcher to me. And I'm just sitting here wondering if I'm the attorney on both sides, how that can be circumvented. And in fact, in my opinion, it shouldn't even be an issue. At will employment, you can quit for whatever reason you want. These employees should be free to go. And if ThedaCare is not setting up a competitive arrangement or a competitive work situation, especially if they opted not to counter offer, then, shame on them. But the craziest thing outside of the at-will employment agreement is that this court order actually states that ThedaCare gets to get a radiology technician and a registered nurse back, 2 out of 7 people who would be leaving. And if they don't, Ascension basically has to give up or cease hiring of all of these workers until ThedaCare can hire replacements. This market, it might take months, to be honest with you. But just think, if you are the radiology technician and the registered nurse who are forced to go back to the employer that you just quit, who has sued to make you come back and work in the conditions that you left to begin with, how would you feel if you were that employee? Because if you were forced to go back into that work situation and now you've got an even bigger grudge, I can certainly imagine you're not going to be a very productive worker. You might call off a few times, and this is no reflection on the healthcare professionals at all, but I'm not sure if I was in a ThedaCare hospital that I would want a registered nurse or a radiology technician working on my situation if they were forced there against their will. But what is absolutely mind-blowing to me is that a court is intervening to allow ThedaCare to replace their workers and then force people back. It just blows my mind. I've never in my entire career heard of anything even remotely close to this. If you are an employee who is currently at ThedaCare and you're watching this debacle and you're watching your coworkers that you've probably worked very closely with going through this whole situation where now the company is suing to force them back into the toxic environment that they were in. And I'm assuming that it was a toxic environment. There's really no way of telling because it doesn't say it in this article, but I'm just going to assume work-life balance issues. There's been a lot of, if you look at this other article, of course, there's a lot of articles going out now about COVID positive nurses being pressured back to work while they're sick and taking the risk of infecting patients. And then, of course, work-life hours, like work-life balance. So many people have quit with the Great Resignation that, we are in a very significant labor shortage, and in particular in healthcare. This is potentially this is a bad situation. And these employees are looking around at their coworkers being sued and forced to come back into a potentially toxic situation, which if it wasn't toxic before, guarantee it's now a toxic situation. So you got to wonder what the morale is, not only for the employees who are forced back, but then also the employees who are remaining at ThedaCare. And if you're somebody that's actively interviewing for a job with ThedaCare right now, in the back of my mind, I'm probably thinking, I wonder if Ascension's hiring for a similar role, because they could potentially sue you to keep you at this job. All in all, it's certainly not a good look on ThedaCare from a recruitment perspective. And if I'm talent acquisition at Ascension, I'm licking my chops with all the potential influx of new employees that would be coming my way, because essentially ThedaCare can't force all of these people to stay there. And again, if you're somebody that is forced to work, what kind of production and what kind of morale do you think that they're going to have and the people around them? Anyway, I saw this article and I thought that you might be interested in it, so I will keep you abreast if there's any developments here. And if you're somebody that's in healthcare and you're looking to make a change, that's actually something that I specialize in. I've got a website called alifeafterlayoff.com. It's loaded with tips and tricks, all from an insider's perspective. And I have my deepest and most intimate knowledge in the form of some training courses. The first one is called Resume Rocketfuel, and it's designed to teach you how to write an effective resume and then also how to use it. And that's designed to get you that first round interview. Once you get that first round interview, then it's up to you to sell yourself throughout the rest of the interviewing process. And that's where the ultimate job seeker boot camp comes in. I take you through each round of the interview and how to ace each step, ultimately to land your dream job, hopefully with a company that's not going to sue you to stay. If you think you need more specialized help, I actually do offer some private one-on-one coaching sessions, and you can reach me through my website for that. Hey, appreciate you watching. We'll keep a close eye on the story, see if anything develops, and we will see you on the next one.